the flower in the hair was an idea of Nike's. So the flower is the national flower of the Philippines. It's called the Sampaguita. And kind of the whole idea behind it is
under 60 seconds. Reportedly, that is all it took for Alex's Sampaguita Nike collection to disappear online and turn a limited merch drop into a worldwide declaration of power. Alex Eala is already carrying the kind of emotional pull that brands spend decades trying to manufacture. When Filipino fans saw those pieces vanish and resale prices start climbing almost immediately, this stopped being about shirts and shoes. It became proof that one player's story had reached escape velocity, and the sold-out screen was only the ending of a story that began with a single flower. Only a few days earlier, Ayala had walked off the Miami Open after a brutal 6-0 6-2 loss to Carolina Mucha. The audience had just seen the sting of that result, which is why what happened next landed so hard. Nike samped with her 2025 Wimbledon center court debut and deepened with the In Full Bloom shirt later that year. Then the February 27th visit to Nike World headquarters put the whole idea on display. Posters on the walls, Sampaguita pieces in the building, and EA recreating her winning pose as if the company already knew what was coming. When the latest drop finally arrived, the only real obstacle was how fast the world could click. There was no feud here, no ugly quote, no villain in the traditional sense. The pressure came from scarcity colliding with devotion. Nike did not release a generic athlete capsule and hope people noticed. It built a collection around the saga, the national flower of the Philippines, a symbol of resilience, home, and identity, and placed it on the shoulders of a player whose fan base does not consume her story casually. They protect it, they claim it, they wear it as their own. That is what made this commercial tension so revealing. When a limited run meets an ordinary market, items trickle out. When a limited run meets a community that sees itself in the design, shelves do not empty. They collapse. Some drama channels even framed the frenzy against established Nike names whose recent colorways, according to commercial chatter, did not generate anything close to this level of heat. That is not a shot at those stars. Apparel cycles move fast, and everyone in this sport knows that. But the comparison still lands because it exposes where the energy actually is. And in late March of 2026, the energy was with Alex. The first signal came long before the sellout at Wimbledon in 2025. Nike gave a custom Sampaguita hair tie for her center court debut. One detail, one flower, one cultural marker placed on one of tennis's most iconic stages. EA herself explained why it mattered.
This was so special for me. First of all, to just have something that reminds me of where I come from, of my country and my culture. Makes me special is where I come from.
The saga is the flower of my country, a reminder of where I come from. That is not decorative branding. That is an athlete taking national memory onto the court and refusing to separate performance from identity. The flower in her hair was never a side note. It was the origin point. That Wimbledon detail became the seed. By July 2025, the story had moved from symbolism to demand. The Nike Bayou in full bloom. Saga t-shirt designed by Manila-based artist Georgina Camus dropped in the Philippines and sold out quickly. That matters because it established a pattern, not a fluke. First, the hair tie captures imagination. Then, the shirt proves people are willing to buy the story, not simply admire it from a distance. That is how movements announce themselves, not with one viral moment, but with repeat behavior. The people who connected with Eala's cultural message the first time came back with their wallets the second time. If you felt then that the Samp was becoming bigger than a one-off Wimbledon accessory, your read of the moment was sharper than the industry's. The market eventually caught up to what devoted fans had already seen. July 2025 gave Nike evidence. February 27, 2026 gave Nike intent. When EA arrived at Nike World headquarters in Oregon, the treatment was impossible to ignore. Career posters, a dedicated Sampaguita shirt display, special edition shoes, and then the image that tied everything together. Eala recreating her signature winning celebration in front of a company-built monument to her own rise. Witnesses did not need a press release to understand the message. ABS-CBN coverage, social posts, and lifestyle features all pointed in the same direction. Nike was not treating her as an athlete tucked away in a regional lane. It was staging her story with premium attention, surrounding her with imagery that felt less like background decoration and more like brand inheritance. The headquarters visit was not the reward for the movement. It was the company stepping directly into it. Then the collection dropped and the numbers did the talking. According to fan-tracking tennis content creators and resale reports, the newest Sampaguita-themed drop, shirts, shoes, accessories sold out in under 60 seconds. Traffic spiked, listings went dark, pieces began appearing on secondary markets at roughly triple retail. Monday, the link goes live. Within moments, inventory gone. Minutes later, the resellers are already circling. That is not passive interest. That is flash flood demand. Put yourself in the shoes of anyone still calling this hype. You are watching a limited collection tied to a 20-year-old Filipina player vanish at a pace normally reserved for global fashion collaborations and megastar sneaker launches. Not after a Grand Slam title, not after a year-end #1 finish. Right now, while her on-court career is still unfolding in real time, the implication is enormous. Her story is already monetizing at a level that forces the rest of the sport to pay attention. And once those pieces sold through, the emotional climax arrived exactly where this story always wanted to go, in the hands of the people. Fans across Asia and the Filipino diaspora flooded social media with pride posts, celebration edits, and screenshots of sold out. Resellers moved instantly, which told one truth. The fan reaction told a bigger one. This was not merely commerce. This was recognition. A nation's flower had crossed from court symbolism into something the world wanted to own, display, and chase. That is why the sellout mattered so deeply. The audience that believed Eala represented something larger than ranking points did not need permission from a marketing department to feel that. They were there when the hair tie debuted. They were there when the shirt moved. And when the latest drop vanished almost immediately, the whole tennis world had to confront what her supporters already understood. Alex Eala is not being carried by a trend. She is driving one. Now add the one voice in this story whose endorsement outweighs everyone else's. Nike itself. This is the company that has been with Eala since her teenage years. The company that turned a custom Wimbledon detail into a broader visual language. The company that welcomed her into its world headquarters built dedicated Sampaguita displays around her image and treated her cultural story as premium brand material rather than niche storytelling. And when Nike spoke, it spoke with unusual clarity. The Sampa is a flower that holds its own. And so does Alexa, a lifetime in the making, a nation behind her. That statement matters because brands do not casually hand out identity-rich messaging at this level. They protect it. They test it. They reserve it for athletes whose story can carry weight across markets. When Nike frames Eala not only as a competitor, but as someone with a nation behind her, the company is validating the exact emotional truth fans have been screaming for months. The commercial machine is no longer cautiously observing. It has chosen a side. The immediate sellout is the headline. The deeper shift is what it says about where women's tennis is going. For years, premium brand heat in the sport has been concentrated around the most established names and the most familiar markets. Ayala Sajida dropped points somewhere else. It shows that an athlete from an emerging tennis nation, I'm carrying an authentic cultural symbol, can generate premium demand at a level powerful enough to distort supply in real time. That is not a side story to the season. It is a map of the future, and the timing matters. The clay swing is approaching with Charleston, Stuttgart, and Madrid ready to become the next stages where cameras, fans, and brands measure not only how Eala performs, but how loudly her presence lands. After that come Rome and Roland Garros. Events where a player with this kind of cultural momentum can turn every walk onto court into a brand event before the first ball is struck. So, here is the defensible prediction. If Eala stays anywhere near this level of relevance on court, Nike will not be able to keep the Sampaguita confined to one novelty moment. Expanded releases, deeper customization, broader regional rollouts become the logical next move because the current appetite has already exposed the ceiling as too low. What happened in late March did not close the story. It increased the pressure on everyone around her to think bigger. That does not erase the tennis reality. On March 23rd in Miami, much of dismantled Eala 6-0, 6-2. Before that, Indian Wells had already delivered another harsh scoreline against Linda Noskova. Those results are real, and they belong in the story. What matters is what the aftermath revealed. Ella did not vanish into embarrassment, and her community did not treat one rough night as a reason to step back. Within days, the conversation around her name had shifted from a painful scoreboard to a sold-out cultural statement. That is not denial. It is perspective. The losses remain part of the climb. But they no longer have the power to define the entire frame. A flower on a Wimbledon hair tie, a shirt in July, a headquarters display in Oregon on February 27th, a Miami loss on March 23rd. Then the drop, the scramble, the empty inventory, the resale surge, and those screenshots flashing the same two words across fan accounts everywhere: sold out. That is the full picture. Alex Eala proved that her influence now reaches beyond draw sheets and scoreboards. She carries a symbol people recognize instantly. And when Nike turned that symbol into a collection, the response was overwhelming enough to feel historic. So here is the question. After the under 60 con frenzy and that full-circle Nike HQ coronation, is Alex Eala already the company's most magnetic rising star in women's tennis? So, do you need to see Charleston and Madrid before you say it out loud? If you caught the meaning of the Sampaguita before the rest of the market moved, then you belong in this corner of the tennis world. Subscribe and stay with this channel because this is where the fans who saw the signs early follow every next chapter, from the next tournament entrance to the next drop that the internet may not survive. This story is moving too fast for casual attention.